Welcome to Short and to the Point, a podcast from the Comeback in Awful Announcing. Here's your host, Jessica Kleinschmidt.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Short and to the Point. Jess Kleinschmidt here for Awful Announcing and the Comeback. Really excited for this episode, and also wanted to give you guys a heads up. My schedule's about to get very, very crazy. Pitchers and catchers reported, and I guess they technically report. I guess they've already reported. I don't know. The whole thing is a hot mess. I am updating my baseball spreadsheet every single day. It's what I do. It's what normal people do when they're preparing for the 2024 season. I mentioned earlier the A's signed me on for this upcoming 2024 campaign, and I couldn't be more excited. So that'll start soon. But until then, I'm excited to introduce my guest today, ESPN's own Cassidy Hubbarth. I have been watching her for years, and we have a lot in common as far as, well, we're both Filipino, first and foremost. We have very much a sneaker affinity, and we both work in sports media. She's just somebody that I've watched from afar for so many years, and somebody I love her work. I love the way she approaches it. Her passion shines through. The fans love to watch her do the in-game interviews. She does sidelines. She's also the host of the NBA All-Star Celebrity Game there on ESPN, the host of Hoop Streams, so many things, so many other things that she's involved with, and she does them so well. So we talk a little bit about her background, a lot about motherhood and balancing that with a very intense schedule. And she just does it all. And she admits that it's not the easiest thing to do. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Cassidy Hubbarth. Well, Cassidy's here, like I promised, and I'm excited that you're here for a multitude of reasons. But one thing that stood out to me was you grew up in Chicago, but you grew up in Chicago loving basketball during the Michael Jordan era. So what was that like to be a part of just the crowd witnessing all of that?
Man, it's a part of me. I don't know any other way, but growing up watching and being a part of just that Bulls mania. And we had such a basketball loving household that, we planned our nights around it. And it shaped my interest in sports. It shaped my interest in this career, and it shaped my just my fandom in general. I think the NBA has always been my number one sport. Even when I had moments of like really being into the Bears, the heartbeat of me as a sports fan was always with the NBA, because I was spoiled growing up. I saw 6 championships, and the greatest player alive. And so, that I didn't know anything else. And, now looking back at that time and thinking about how hard it is to, for the Bulls to get into some relevant conversations in the NBA right now, did I take it for granted? I don't know, because I just, I was young. That's what I knew. But now, I just wish we could let me strike that from the record. The Bulls can kind of get back into conversations of being competitive, because the orange, the red and white just doesn't look good just being in the abyss. In purgatory.
It's different for you. It's something you're not used to.
Yeah.
But it's funny, because I know you wanted to strike it from the record. You said I struggle with that a lot. I feel like I play for the Oakland A's sometimes. So how do you stop yourself from saying that when you're in the midst of a conversation talking about the team?
Well, I mean, I don't do it in, it's only when I'm talking about like my fandom. Do I say we? It's honestly, I've become less of a fan especially when I'm covering the league on a national level. It's hard for me to watch Bulls games, the same way I watched growing up when I'm having to take in all the different storylines across the league, almost cramming on a week-to-week basis because I'm flying in and flying out and trying to get caught up with what's happening with each team. Because I think what the beauty of the NBA is that there's so many big personalities, there's so many storylines, and it's my job to try to bring those to life and be able to kind of express that on a broadcast and complement what's happening in the game action.
And you mentioned you're kind of less of a fan now, but you still are a fan at heart. So how has your relationship as a quote fan changed? Because you have to cover the game now. You have to view it differently. Is there a maturation process there? How has it shifted?
I think anyone who's in this business, is in this business because they're a fan.
Yeah.
I think genuine passion for the league has helped my career because, I have interest in digging maybe a little deeper into things, understanding, wanting to understand why certain guys are the way they are on the court, off the court. And so I think having interest in what's happening in the league and not just a rooting interest. I think that's the maturation process, if you want to call it that, or that's just the shift to, professionally covering this league. It is an entertainment business, so it's not like back in the day where it was frowned upon to be a fan.
Yeah.
I think like just like the NBA is entertainment, I think broadcasting and the covering of the NBA is entertainment as well. So having a good understanding of what fans, want to learn about, want to hear about, that's all part of it. So you have to be a bit of a fan in that regard and understanding what matters to people when consuming the NBA.
And there's an authenticity there with you as well, because you talk about the passion. Fans want to see you passionate about it, and they see that during your interviews. So how do you find the balance of giving the fans what they want? You still have to inform them and be true to the reporter aspect. So how do you kind of put that all together, wrap it up in a bow, and present it?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's I think it's it's a great privilege to be able to cover the league on the national basis. But there's pros and cons to that because, as I mentioned, I'm not with the team on a daily basis like the beat writers who are getting kind of day-to-day access and understanding the intricacies of the team's development over the years or over the season. But coming in and understanding the broader storylines, and I guess I have just maybe a general rule where I try to get my first two questions in about specifics about the game, and then try to go bigger picture in my final two questions, because it's a national audience, and it's kind of like an introduction to, as they call, casuals to this team or to this star player. And so I guess that's a method to my madness, but really it's just experience and trying to figure out and listen to the broadcast what are the key themes. During the game I'm writing my own notes and going back and forth with my researcher in terms of trends and understanding these personalities. Like I've been covering the league and on the sidelines for 10 years now, and so having these relationships with players and knowing like what might get a good response out of guys, it's all kind of mixed into whatever formula that I'm at right now.
And you mentioned 10 years on the sidelines, but before that, you were still doing all kinds of stuff. And we're talking about the digital age kind of started blooming when you got into it. How have you noticed the digital space in sports media has changed or really been since its infancy? Because I feel like we're able to embrace it a lot more. Everything's streaming, but you were there from the beginning. What have you noticed the changes about that platform?
Yeah, I mean, I owe so much of my career to digital media. I graduated from college as Twitter was launching and Facebook, launched when I was in college, and kind of having that basic understanding from just being in and around as social media was, blossoming. I gained like a appreciation for it, which then led to curiosity with how I could apply it to, sports. And so, being able to do a job where I was like a social media reporter back in 2008, basically reading tweets on air, to also doing, content, downloadable kind of Netflix style content for Sprint mobile phones, which was like
Wow.
flip phones. So I was doing like 3-minute,
You were T9ing.
yes, but we were creating content. So, I had such exposure to, where media was going as it was heading there. And then, got hired by ESPN as a digital media host, hosting, halftime shows for college football and basketball. Like, it's just been my whole career. And then my big break was on NBA Tonight, and I used NBA Twitter, and that was like the rise of NBA Twitter around like, 2011, 2012. Use that to kind of understand the pulse of fans. And so it absolutely evolved, and I was able to see that. Right now, it's a hard kind of thing to understand because, streaming to me is a whole different world than actual like social media. Yes, hosting hoop streams, even launching that in 2018, that kind of streaming ability on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook, like that was, like something ahead of its time. But where we are now, I don't, like, I think is going to be completely different than where we are in 2 years from now. So, I would like to say I have my hand on the pulse, like I felt like I did at the beginning of my career, but I don't. How much I even engage with X and, Instagram is like, yes, I consume it, but I don't put out as much as I used to. I think that, where we are in live streaming and how many and all the podcasts people have, like that's also another area of digital media. And so like I know that it's only going to continue to expand horizontally, which is wonderful because it's giving a lot of people a chance to, cover whatever sport that they're interested in their authentic voice. So I will always be a supporter and know my heart's in digital media, but how I've seen it change, I just think that the biggest change is that like more changes are coming. And I don't think we even know where that's going to lead us.
And I think it's good that we're able to embrace that. Like it's forever changing, and that's definitely a positive. But the thing that I've noticed from the beginning is the people around me were very anti-digital. And now I think everybody's embracing it. Was that the same thing for you? People were unsure about it, that I was around anyway.
Oh yeah. I mean, like for the big chunk of my career, I was labeled a digital media talent, and that was kind of like a scarlet letter. It was hard for me to kind of be taken. Now, granted, I was still at ESPN, so that was a huge opportunity. I was still getting exposure that, that a lot of people I think would dream about. But digital kind of had this, people in digital understood where things were going and how fast things were moving, but on the linear side, it was tough to kind of mesh. And we see that even with digital media. Like it's just we learned that. When I was reading tweets on air, if you look back on that, I was like, they don't mix. Like let X be X and let linear TV be linear TV. I think we were all kind of trying to learn the space, but also protect the spaces we were in. And so, but I mean, clearly now we're just at a point where, we're just trying to fill all of the different like holes that we can in this vast land of the
Yeah.
media landscape. And so I think that for the most part, like in terms of, how it was viewed and how it's viewed now, I think one can't live without the other, because
Yeah.
you have to realize that like your audience right now is so split.
Mhm.
And so, and you have to try to capture attention in every single direction that it's possible for you to do so.
Do you remember how many followers the NBA X account had when you were attached to it back then?
No.
No?
Wait. So I was never attached to the NBA's account.
Oh, okay.
I just was talking about how when NBA Twitter kind of
Gotcha. Okay.
how people like meme NBA memes started to pick
Got you.
up like the conversation.
The overall
The
overview of
overall,
it.
yes,
Okay.
yes. But yeah, I'm not sure, but it certainly has grown a lot.
I'm always curious about that, like back
Yeah.
when it first started compared to now, just because
Mhm.
people are obsessed with numbers and they want to measure them. You mentioned your, basketball loving background. Or that I recently found out how much the Filipino culture embraces basketball.
Hmm.
So it was almost like it was ingrained in you. Tell me a little bit about that and just your Filipino culture.
Yeah, I mean, growing up in the States, my mom's grew up in the Philippines and immigrated here when she was, in her early 20s. Um, and I had a basic understanding. I mean, growing up, my mom put me in like the Filipino Basketball Association in Chicago, so I had a basic understanding that Filipinos were really into basketball. But I don't think I fully appreciated until I really started, picking up my basketball coverage at ESPN and
Mhm.
just saw a lot of Filipinos reaching out and kind of expressing excitement to have, representation, in their favorite sport. And that I really started to notice when I was at games that most of the people who would, come up to me and try to say hi were Filipinos. And
Yeah.
so I think I just understood more and more like the love that Filipinos have for the NBA and basketball in general is so deep and so passionate. And then last year I was able to work on a podcast with a amazing guy named Nikko Ramos, and we explored the Filipinos' love of the game, is what the podcast was called, and we interviewed people like Eric Spoelstra, who's
Mhm.
basically like a rock star in the
Yeah.
Philippines, and kind of just understood how it grew and kind of took over that country, and why Filipino fans are so passionate. And I like it helped me kind of have an even deeper appreciation for my Filipino heritage. I've always been proud to be a Filipino American, but I don't get a lot of time back in the Philippines where I have a lot of family, and just kind of like getting an understanding of um, you know what's happening back in the Philippines and how people are consuming the league and waking up early in the morning to watch games, and,
Yeah.
like being some of the most active people on social media when it comes to reaction to the league. It's special, and it makes me feel even more proud, when I'm out there representing, and I hear someone, yell my name, and then I'll yell back to them, Filipino,
Yeah.
Filipino. So it's beautiful, and I'm really happy to be that representation. But I hope we have more and more Filipinos like yourself
Yes.
covering the league.
And it's cool because I heard or I watched a panel and Nico and you were both on it. I believe it was crossover, and he was just in awe of you and so complimentary to the point you made a funny little suggestion like, you're gonna make me cry, like everything's fine. But there's a brother-sister relationship that you two
Mhm.
had, which added to the success of just the chemistry there. So what was that relationship like, and how did that help the podcast?
I mean, he's just like the most like authentic, sweet, genuine person. And like it's hard to do podcasts sometimes, when you're not in the same room with someone, and especially when you're in completely different time zones, like
Yeah.
across the country. And we made it work because we were instantly teammates, and we understood each other. And I have so much respect for him. He hustles and he understands the league in such a deep, knowledgeable way. And he taught me a lot during that podcast. And it's a forever friendship. I plan on seeing him in Indy for All-Star. He's making the trip all the way from the Philippines. And it's going to be a great reunion, and a constant reminder that the reach is even greater than I can even understand.
He said you're one of the best, if not the best in the world. What's it like hearing a compliment like that?
Oh, he's just gassing me.
You did the exact same thing on the piano. You're like, oh,
no. That's what, if your little sister or your little brother, is asked about you're gonna give the best compliment. No, I appreciate him for saying that, but it's nothing but love, between us. So that's just support is what that is.
I'm going to follow it up by saying the moderator said the same thing. So that person's not your little brother who said it. Just take the damn compliment.
Okay, I accept. I accept it. I'm not going to, it's because you know what it is. I think it's, you want to push yourself. I'm around a lot of talented people. One of my best friends is Doris Burke. She's the best about this.
Yeah.
And even though she's now an analyst and not doing sidelines anymore, she'll still be the best. And I'm constantly studying and watching other reporters and how they do things. And Allie LaForce is fantastic on TNT. And it's not about a comparison. It's about it's so great seeing so many women not only take pride in their craft, but excel and grow the position. I think, one thing I will say, and this is something me and Doris talk about all the time, that the sideline job is the hardest, easiest job in the business. It's the hardest because you get only such a short amount of time to make an impact. You can, prep for days for a game, and if it doesn't go with the flow of the game, you may not get a time to get in. I liken it to trying to get in a double dutch. You just may not find the right rhythm. So it may seem like an easy job because you're not talking as much as the play-by-play and analyst, but it's very challenging in a lot of ways. So I always appreciate those reporters who are kind of growing the position and continuing to garner the appreciation and respect from people in the business.
And you said it's not about comparison. Is that something that was a lesson that was easy for you to learn, or did you have to figure that out with time?
I don't know. I think that's just a constant thing. There's always, it's just human to want to compare and kind of size up competition. I mean, being a sports fan, I think it's innate in you to be also competitive, because that's the basis of sports is competition. But it's just about looking inside yourself, because if we're back to social media, I think that's something that I don't know if we kind of envisioned would be such a huge part of the impact of social media, the comparison that people kind of waste their time with, instead of figuring out ways to improve yourself. You're scrolling, doom scrolling, and envisioning what other people are doing with their time and why you're not doing that with your time. And it was really hard for me too. After having my daughter, it's my life completely changed, and your priorities change and your time changes. And so, trying to find that balance. So there are a lot of times where I have to get myself out of a funk if I'm, comparing myself to what I could have done if I wasn't, baking cookies for the bake sale tomorrow. Like, what game film I could be watching, or story I could be reading to get myself prepared for the game. And there's always something I could be doing more on in some part of my
Right.
life. So I think that comparison, that juggling of a balancing act that is being an adult with responsibilities and a career, I think that's the hardest part. Do I have it figured out? No. Are there moments of weakness? Yes, constantly.
Yeah.
But it's trying to figure out, like, how, what's best for me in terms of how can I grow as a person, not just as a reporter, not just as a mom or a wife, but like as a complete person. And so, that's an everyday challenge that I think we
Yeah.
all deal with.
And I wanted to ask you about that. You kind of said it, and it was an interview that you talked about saying your focus used to be 100% on work, and that can't be the case when you're a mom now. So was that adjustment difficult for you? Because it sounded like you were having like a mental tennis match and knowing that your life is about to change. And
Yeah.
then once it happened, like you said, you can prepare for all the things in the world. But once she was here, how was that adjustment?
I mean, I'm still adjusting,
Yeah.
it's hard going on the road, and, and she's asking me where I'm going and why I'm not there, and, missing out on dance recitals, and,
Mhm.
finding that kind of balance of figuring out who's going to be watching her, and, like how much time I can spend if I could take an earlier flight so I can make a
Yeah.
practice, or should I just skip that practice so I can take her to school? Like, it's an everyday juggle, and it was really hard for me. Me and my husband had been together for a long time, and I think before we decided to have kids, and I think it's because I always knew that once I was going to we were going to have a family, that I was going to end up just not being the same person I always knew. And which
Mhm.
is like, it depends on how you're looking at that.
Yeah.
I only knew, myself as someone who had been chasing this dream since I was in middle school, um, and what that took to kind of keep up in the rat race. And I was so nervous that I was going to lose that. To the point where, like, I've been open about, like, how I hid my pregnancy because I thought
Mhm.
people cared, and no one cared. It only just
Yeah.
created more stress, but it was just something I could control. When, like, the most uncontrollable thing was about to happen, like,
Yeah.
and so since then, it's life, like a working mom, like, we've all heard it. It's sacrifice, it's rewarding, it's beautiful, it's chaotic, it's stressful, like, it's all those things, but that's life. And I have a pretty good one, so I
Yeah.
just, try to bring myself back to that center anytime I feel myself kind of spinning out.
And selfishly, I've been toying with, what do I want as far as a future with a family and stuff. When people ask you that in this space, sports media, I'm not saying it's any better or worse than any other occupation, but it's just different. What advice do you give somebody who's toying with wanting to be a mom and they're in the sports media world?
um I could only give advice. It's hard, like, every parent likes to give unsolicited advice. I'll tell you to, don't get buttons for newborns, like, only use zippers. Like, that's some advice I can give you.
Okay. Okay.
But, I think the more appropriate thing is, if I were to give some advice to myself,
Mm,
as I was going in this journey again, um, is to just try to, like, like, if I were fortunate enough to be able to do it over again, obviously I would not hide my pregnancy. I would try to, embrace it, and um, like, try to be able to appreciate every single moment of it. Motherhood, parenthood is hard enough. every stage of it. So it's it's your own personal journey. So I think the biggest thing is just making sure you're taking care of yourself. You
Mhm.
can't be, the best parent to your child if you're not being the best version of you. So, sorry.
Okay.
Another benefit of having kids is
You're gonna get
Hey.
sick.
And so that's what I'm in. Mm. So yeah, I guess that would be my biggest like advice to people who are looking to start their family. It's just like make sure you prioritize yourself as well. And like mind, body, and soul, because then you could be the most complete parent to your child if you're feeling good about yourself. And that's a constant journey for me right now. Like I'm having to battle that as well, on top of getting older, which like anyone who tells you that it's good getting older, it's
It's like they're like, oh, every day is a gift, but like things are sagging. See, things are sagging in places that didn't.
I'm just sitting here, my back's hurting, but that's okay. It's all right.
Like nobody told me that. Like, yes, of course, I'm excited that I'm still here, but like still in pain. Things like this metabolism. What's that? Like, where did that come from?
Yeah,
I know what you're talking. I know what you mean.
Girl just wants to eat rice and peas.
I eat my pizza and rice in peace and not worry about anything. Yes. You have this fascination with the sneaker culture. You have a very impressive collection. And before we get into just like overall how you present yourself in the fashion world, which I'm obsessed with everything that you wear, tell me about what fascinates you about the sneaker culture.
You know what? The sneaker culture's changed a lot too over
Yeah.
the last decade. I mean, in my closet right now is collecting dust. I have so many Jordans that like I don't ever wear either. I've always loved sneakers. Like I've always like I think it goes back to growing up in Chicago during the
Mhm.
Jordan era, and Jordans were it.
Yeah.
I mean, like it was a status symbol. It was, like it represented culture, it represented style. Those 11s were like my holy grail growing up. I could never afford them. And so I've always just had a familiarity, I guess, with the sneaker culture. I wouldn't by any means call myself a sneakerhead. Just, I've always had an affinity and a familiarity with it. And so it's carried over into my adult life. And it's funny though, back to being old, like I wear the same dunks probably every single day because they're easy to slip on and head out the door, as opposed to I'm not like busting out a new pair of J's every day because they hurt my ankles. And they rub on the back. It's just I'm so at the stage.
These are the days of our lives. Yes.
Like it's so at the stage of my life and what's comfortable. But I still have an appreciation, and I'll flex from time to time. But in the sneaker game, like in going into, I just bought some shoes for All-Star. Going into sneaker stores, like it's hard because the product is different, like sure there's those like rare shoes that you can't get your hands on that if you wanted to pay like a grip for, sure, but mostly like it's oversaturated, and you can find what you're looking for if you really wanted it, which I didn't really love that part of the game either, let's not play a cat and mouse game, like just tell me what the price is and then let me go there. But I do appreciate like when someone points to my shoes and like, those are fire. That's like a top 3 compliment for sure. For sure.
What's another compliment? I get off when people tell me my eyebrows look good.
Good one. Because of all the work that goes into my eyebrows, like,
mine are tattoos. So
oh really?
Yeah. So I like to pretend like I like earn them on the streets. Like I got tats, but really I I don't want to be high maintenance. So
Yeah.
I do that to make things easier.
Well, good for you. I mean, I wish I could do that because my eyebrows grow like Kevin from the Backstreet Boys. So like, the maintenance is intense. So that's definitely a good compliment. If someone says you smell good, it's also a good.
Oh, yes. That is a good one.
But those are all, and then there's also like, oh, you're so smart.
Oh yeah, sure. Good personality, whatever.
Whatever.
You have a good heart. Sure.
Sure.
But the eyebrows, how are those looking?
Right, exactly. Skin, right.
Yeah. Sure, for sure. Yeah.
But how's the fit?
Yeah. Like, oh yeah. I guess if you want to be internal about it.
Mm-hmm,
But in another quote that I saw that you gave, you said it was going to H&M and trying to make what I bought look like Prada. So you're about comfort, but still being stylish, which is for me the most difficult thing to do. It's so difficult. On a budget. So exactly. So how do you balance that?
I don't. I mean, it's an everyday struggle. I'm looking at my closet. I'm like, I don't have anything in there.
Yeah.
And then like, I rent clothes like every other reporter.
Yeah.
And, we're all wearing the same things. Like I try. There's, like there are moments where I try, but it's clothes are expensive now too. Like these prices. I'm just trying to look cute. The problem is that like once I wear it, it's like I got to figure out another way to bring it back out. I got to be better at that. So I don't have a strategy. I'm day by day trying to survive out in these streets with my look. Yeah. I appreciate you saying that I got to figure it out, but I don't like I don't have a stylist. I don't, I'm putting it together. And I make runs to Zara and H&M like every other girl. Mm-hmm. And then like there are times where I'll get some help from some people. Like for All-Star, I'll have a stylist who helps me, but not on a day-to-day basis for my games. So there are moments where I'm like, all right, I really got a good handle on my style.
Yeah.
And then there are other moments where like I got nothing. I'm gonna go with a black turtleneck and some pants.
Totally. I don't know how to be like trendy anymore because I'm tired. And like, just like
I'm tired.
I'm like, I don't know.
I don't skinny jeans. Why did you get take those away from me?
Yeah. I just want to go and do my thing, but I also understand because I do like fashion. I really do.
I do. When I see someone's really well put together, I'm like, man, I wish.
But then we have to ask them if are you comfortable in that?
Right. Yes. I am. See, like what's funny is I, can walk in 4-inch heels and games for like an hour.
Yeah.
But once I'm like away from the adrenaline of a game, immediately in flats. And the second I can get out of those clothes into sweats is like that is so I look and sometimes I like see these TikToks and I'm like, oh, one day I'm gonna be that put together. But then I'm like, no, that's not me. Comfort has always been who I even when I was younger, like high school, I would always wear, like my basketball warm-ups or my soccer warm-ups or, like my brother's clothes. Like I could put something together if you put something in front of me, but it's not a main priority for me to like make sure I have the hotness, every day on. I wish, I see some of these other like, cool moms out here in the drop-offs, like fully together. I don't even know if I brushed my teeth. Like, but
I don't know if this is my kid. Am I at the right school? I don't know.
I'm just trying to survive. I'm glad. I'm glad I'm fooling some people, Jessica.
Yeah, honestly, good on them. Good on them. Really.
Good on them.
For sure.
Way to
like,
go.
I want to be you when I grow up, but I'm still a baby.
No, it's just I'm not a baby anymore, so I'm not like I'm like.
Here's the thing, and I was having this conversation just last night because I'm in my 30s, but I still feel like if I were pregnant, I'd be like a teen mom. I would still feel like, what, like, I'm
How
not
do I
ready
do
for
this?
I'm not ready for this. Like,
I'm not ready.
Like,
But I'm still not ready. You're never gonna be ready. I guess that's what okay, back to the advice, because I was struggling there, because I'm like, I don't know. Like, figure it out. You'll figure it out. And that's the advice. You know what? You gotta figure it out.
Yeah.
It's scary. It's, there was this scene from some Jennifer Lopez movie, I think it was. I can't really tell you which one, where I think
They're all the same movie. Yeah.
yes, yeah, well, yes, and it's a guy from Blackish, Anthony, whatever his name is. He
Yeah.
was talking to someone, and he goes, parenting is basically terrible, awful, horrible. And then they do something amazing,
Yeah.
and it's euphoric, and then it goes to terrible, awful.
Oh, okay.
No, just kidding. It's honestly it is the best thing I've ever done in my life, but you figure it out. You think, like, we were petrified when
Yeah.
they gave us our daughter and was just like, "Okay, take her home." And we're like, "Huh?
Don't we have
What?"
a test to take
Yeah,
or something?
Yeah, what? What? But
You're just gonna trust us with this child?
you figure it out, because, this person that this life you've created becomes the most important thing to you. And
Was that
so
instant too? Like, you had the maternal right the moment it happened? Did you feel like you were a mommy, or did that take some time?
yeah, I did.
Oh, that's
Yeah, I
cool.
did. But, it's if it help, like, everyone is different.
Yeah.
Every parent is different. Every experience is different. You could argue, like, there is a, like, a maternal bond,
Yeah.
but and, like, because of, you know me providing her with
Yes.
her food, there was this,
Yes.
like, a more like, early on need connection I had with my daughter, which was probably difficult for my husband, because, like, it was not the same need,
Yeah.
but that quickly changed, once,
Right.
like, we got all out of that phase, and it was a new phase of parenting. And yeah, it's quite a ride. It's like,
Yeah.
it's really truly, like, the best experience of life.
Oh, that's so cool. Because, like I said, I'm debating on how I want to handle that. So that helps a little bit. Because same thing. Like, I don't want to be naive about it and saying, because I think it's important for me to have the conversations and the tennis match in my own head, because
Mhm.
I care about it so much.
Yeah,
You
right.
know? Yeah.
Yes, of course. I mean, this is the impossible, like, challenge of, having careers and being a parent, because it's balancing it all. I keep
Mhm.
bringing up balance, and, you're constantly having to put, like,
But the
things.
balance is like the sticks with the dishes on top.
That's
That's how I
exactly right.
feel it. Yeah.
And sometimes that's how you feel. Like, I
Yeah.
can't keep this up. Like,
Yeah.
like, I'm overwhelmed with stress and anxiety, and then you got to deal with that. And, like,
Yeah.
that goes back to, sometimes you have to put the dishes down and look at yourself and, like, all right, how do I relieve this stress? How do I be a better me, so I
Yeah.
could be a better, parent and wife,
Yeah.
partner, whatever.
Yeah.
And, better reporter, better host, better, producer. Like, that's sometimes I gave this advice to my best friend Diana Rossini when she was having her kids. You can't
Mhm.
be in two places at once,
Mm.
um, as much as you want to be.
Yeah.
So when I'm out on the road in a game, the the best thing I can do for my daughter and my husband is devote 100% of my attention to my work when I'm there,
Mm.
so that I get the most out of that while being away. And so then when I'm home, I can give 100% of my attention to my family. And
Wow.
so I'm not feeling like I'm not doing what I should have done when I
Yeah.
was out on the road. So
Wow.
that's the only, like, that's the way you can do it. So, like, even if you're not traveling, when you're at the office, like, focus your time there. But it's very hard. Like, I do feel social media has negatively impacted our brains. We're constantly wanting to be stimulated in multiple ways at multiple times, which just is distracting and become
Yeah.
less productive. And so like it's fighting that beast as well. But if you can just kind of send yourself with that thing in mind, I think that would help you, if you do go down that journey.
That helped me just now. That gave me chills a little bit. I think that that's great. No, I think that that's important because, you want to be 90% there. So you want to give 10% or 15%, what have you.
Right.
You're able to, and they love you for that too. And I
Right.
think that that's important as well. And last one before I let you go, you're very open about keeping your personal life private. You're not posting about, your husband or your daughter. Why is that important to you?
Because for a lot of reasons, first of all, I think the main reason is just to make sure that they're safe. I've had some incidents in the past. It's just being a public figure. Neither of them asked to be a public figure.
Yeah.
So I did. And my husband's not the type of guy who's like, I need you to claim me on social media so everyone knows it's real. I mean,
Yeah.
he knows it's real.
Yeah.
And so
there's a lot of proof that that's
Right.
real. Yes.
And then, why subject him to any type of scrutiny,
Yeah.
and like I deal with enough myself, like he doesn't need that. I mean, he's not in this business. And then my daughter, like, I feel like we're in a privacy revolution, not to get so, esoteric on you about like where we are and with social media, but I do feel like we're in a time when I think young people are starting to understand how important their privacy is, and protecting their image and protecting their likeness, especially in this age of AI, and exposing my daughter, to that when she has no understanding or control of like her public image right now,
Yeah.
like that it just never feels right to me. And then also like the short answer of it is this: if you give people so much, they'll make up their minds on you. Like I want people to make up their mind on me and from my work, because
Yeah.
that's what I'm showing you. That's the public side of me, is my work on air, not my family life. And so I don't want people to judge that, judge my work. That's what I'm offering up to the public space, and that is free range for you to judge.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. This is amazing. I feel like I've had like 18 life lessons
Yeah,
today.
please. We just talking, girl.
I know. I like it though. No, because I mean, like, it's just like the way that you present yourself has always been admirable, and just like, stuff that I'm trying to seek out in my own career, in my own life. It definitely helps.
Well, I appreciate that. This conversation was fun. It was actually very refreshing to kind of like even center myself with that too. There's
Yeah.
constant reminders, especially we're at the halfway point of the season. It's always like so hectic. Trying to fit so much in, and it's good to kind of remind myself of like the things that matter to me. And this conversation, helped me express that.
Good. I'm so glad. Thanks so much for stopping by. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
That was my chat with Cassidy. That was so much fun. She definitely answered a lot of questions that I've been having about, just being a woman in this industry. And you reach a certain part of life where you want to figure out what you're doing with your life. I thought I would have that conversation earlier on in my existence, but that's not the case. And that's very much okay. But I promised you a good conversation, and you certainly got one. She made me open up my eyes and my ears and my soul a lot more. And I'm so appreciative of her time, because I think it's really cool to see that we're all trying to figure out how to balance this intense career with a family and life and everything else in existence. And it's very difficult. And I'm not doing a quarter of what she's doing. So I'm very appreciative of her time, and everybody there at ESPN for giving me this opportunity, because my girl crush is just more hardcore than ever. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of Short and to the Point on the Comeback and Awful Announcing. Make sure you're following all of our work on our websites and following this podcast wherever you can get podcasts and ranking them, or do you call it ranking? Giving them stars and reviews, because that makes everybody happy. It makes my bosses happy. It makes everybody happy. And we will see you next time.
Want even more short and to the point? Follow Jessica at Kleinschmidt JD and head over to thecomeback.com and awfulannouncing.com.